Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm here to talk about the board because over the last 24 hours lots of people have been talking and debating online about whether or not our ownership have backed Rob Edwards in the transfer market, and I'm going to try my best in today's video to kind of break that down and give you my overall thoughts on that statement. So how many transfer windows has Edwards had so far? So he's had 4. He's had 2 January windows and he's also had 2 summer windows. The first January transfer window, he managed to bring in Joe Taylor, Nakamba on loan, and also Cody at right back. And that ended up being very successful at Luton because, of course, we went on to win promotion from the Championship to the Premier League. And then in the Premier League, that's when the club spent the most money it's ever done in our history. And it was going to happen. Being a Premier League side, you're going to have to do that, especially for the first time. The level of quality compared to us, to the others, it's just absolutely massive. So you kind of have to spend some sort of money in order to try and compete. And I thought our business, which we did in that summer window, was good because by the time we got to the January window, we were still competing. We were still near enough around other teams to have a chance of staying up in the Premier League. So I thought the summer window was good. And I thought the club actually did back Edwards quite well in the market. But then January transfer window came around and that's when we kind of let ourselves down a little bit. We only brought in one player in Hashi and I felt we should have done more. I thought the warning signs were there about an injury crisis that was going to happen or get worse, which it ended up happening. I know you can't predict an injury crisis getting really bad, but I felt we should have got more than one player in. When you look at Burnley, you look at what Sheffield United did in the January transfer market and the teams above us, like Nottingham Forest, Everton, they did recruit in January. They got more than one player in, and I felt we should have done that. In my opinion, we should have got maybe 1 or 2 players, maybe on a loan deal, because we knew certain players wouldn't be returning back to the squad before the end of the season. And I felt like that injury crisis really impacted us so much to the point that I felt we got relegated because of it. I felt if we had a fully fit squad throughout the whole season, we would have stayed up. I honestly believe that. I think we would have gave it a much better go. We would have taken Forest and Everton right to the end. And yeah, I feel like with a fully fit squad, we could have done that. So yes, there is question marks over January because I do think we should have done better as a team. But the players which we did bring in during our Premier League season, I think the players were a sign of a start that we were going to change the style. We're signing players that were more technically better on the ball. And that's when the style of football was slowly going to transition. And in fact, it did change, didn't it? We all knew the style of football changed over the course of the season. And the players which we brought in were a sign of that. And then comes this summer transfer window in the Championship. And that's when things get a little bit more tricky because I am frustrated with the speed of our negotiations. I felt we should have had all of our players in before the season started, which didn't end up happening. I was surprised that we didn't spend more money. I thought we were going to spend maybe a little bit more, but I always knew we were going to be smart with our money. But when you look at the players which we brought in the summer, it was very clear that Edwards said, look, I'm going to change the style of change the style of football. I want us to be a lot more braver, a lot more technically gifted on the ball. And that requires a certain type of, strategy in recruitment because maybe those players actually cost a lot more than the ones which we were signing in previous seasons. So the club maybe were a little bit stubborn in the fact that maybe we're not going to overpay for these players. We're going to keep trying up our transfer strategy and keep getting these really good players in on really cheap deals. Now, I still believe that can still work. However, you still got to be really smart about it. And I feel like the players which we brought in the summer, looking at these players, I thought were good signings at the time. And I still think a different manager gets better out of these group of players. I feel like we do have a losing mentality at the football club. But the players we brought in, when you look at what they've done previous before coming to Luton, none really have been that successful. Not a player that's stood out in a league. Now, no disrespect to McGuinness, but I never heard of McGuinness before we were linked with him. So, and then you look at Baptiste, Brentford were happy to let him go on a free transfer. You look at Walsh, a player that's not really proven himself. Walters, unheard of talent. We don't know what to expect. Kraus, they didn't really want to keep him at the football club. So we were basically taking players that weren't really standouts at previous football clubs. I know Walters, Arsenal actually wanted to keep him, so you can probably argue one player, and unfortunately he has broken his foot, so we are missing him slightly. But apart from that, we've not really... Well, we didn't really bring in players that were standouts with their previous clubs. That's a little bit of a warning sign there. But like Luton do, we find a way, we find like a weird way of doing things, and we like to sign players that don't do well at their previous club, because somehow at Luton we managed to get the best out of them and they perform really well with us. But previously, we haven't really done that, especially in this summer transfer window. However, I still think Edwards should have got more out of these group of players, and I don't think we are a bottom 5 team. I still think we are a top 10 team. So has the board back Edwards? I think in 2 transfer windows, yes. In the other 2 transfer windows, I feel like we could have done better, and that's when I do believe the club have made a mistake. I do believe the club have made a couple of poor decisions, and it's up to them now to fix this. How do you fix it? Well, you either back Edwards in January and sign a couple of players in, because it needs a couple of players, or you sack Edwards and bring in a new manager. A new manager needs a month before that January transfer window. He needs a month to assess which players he wants to keep, which players he doesn't want to keep, and assess what type of style of football he wants to play going forward. So it's tricky. It's whatever decision the club's going to make, it's going to be costly, because right now I think we've just got a losing mentality. And the reason why I say that is because the team is too used to losing. For 18 months now, this squad of players has lost a lot of games of football. And that does take a toll. It brings low confidence to the camp. And when you see teams get relegated, whatever division they're in, they either change the manager because it changes the mentality a little bit, or you change the squad. We didn't do none of those things. So this squad still has that losing mentality from last season, because we were losing lots of games in the Premier League. Now, of course, we were expected to lose, but we're not winning now. The mentality is still, I would say, arguably still the same from last season. But what's happening now is we're getting the confidence within the group. It's going, and we look a shadow of the team compared to last year. I remember when we were playing against Chelsea, we were 3-0 down, but we showed lots of fight and passion to get back into the game. Whereas against teams like Middlesbrough, we're just folding. And I do think some of the players believe they're Premier League players. I feel like some of them are gutted that maybe they didn't get the right move they wanted in the summer, or didn't have enough interest in them. And they're sulking a little bit. Well, you're not going to get a move in January if you carry on the way you're going, because no one's going to want you. So you need to get out of this mentality and, and just figure out a way of trying to play really good football, because we cannot continue like this. So that's what I think, in my honest opinion. And I do think Luton have 1 or 2 decisions to make. It's either you back Edwards and you get him a few players in January and spend some money, because this squad we need some positive influences coming into the camp. We need some leaders, because I don't see any at the moment. Or you sack Edwards, which is going to cost the club, and you hire a new manager, which is going to cost, and you allow that manager who's coming in, and you help him sign a few players. Either way, Luton are going to have to spend money, because the way we're going, it does concern me. I don't think we're going to go down. However, we're acting like a team that's potentially is going to go down. Just above those relegation places at the moment, and it's only by goal difference. We need to act up. We need to just own up to our mistakes. Mistakes happen, and move on and try and fix this. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.